Hey Scrappy Peeps, Suzanna here today for SpiegelMom Scraps, sharing with you a process video on how I made this fall shaker die cut layout. So this is a free die cut. You can see all those triangles there that Jody made for SpiegelMom Scraps, and you can download that from the blog, and I'll link you right up in the top right corner to where you can find that. And I cut that using a silhouette, and I have these fall leaves from a Cocoa Daisy kit from September that I had fussy cut already, that I knew I wanted to build into the layout to incorporate some fall color into this picture of some fall color just outside of our front door. And I wanted to make some of those triangles into a shaker pocket. So I liked the way that the trees looked, or the triangles looked like trees. They're more like pine trees, like Christmas trees. But when you cut them out of bark and you put the leaves in between, it sort of gives you that fall feel. And then those three triangles that I have, two that are on the layout and one sitting on my mat, were just to create some balance and close that gap between the larger die cut and where the picture is there. So I got out a piece of, this is actually overhead projector film, and that is what I use as the clear backing behind the digital die cut to create, to have a clear element in order to create the shaker pocket. Now, I did not put a second layer of acetate down because I didn't want too much depth to it, and I wanted to be able to have some movement of the sequins. So I just used double-sided tape and put that on the die cut. And then I am just using a pen to trace the outline of that triangle, so I can trace, cut just on the inside of that line. And I will pull away the double-sided piece of tape and then stick that projector film, overhead projector film, onto the double-sided tape, which will create a clear window, which I will then put another layer of sticky double-sided tape to create on two of the three sides of the triangle, and that'll give me a pocket. I actually do have a third piece of double-sided tape that I will put on there, but I'll pull that off once the sequence is actually in to just seal the pocket. So I wanted to do two different pockets, or shaker pockets, because I have two different fall sequins mix from SpiegelMom Scraps. I have A Day in the Woods is a great fall sequence mix if you're looking for things for fall, and Evergreen Bough is another one that has great sort of greens, yellows, oranges, and browns between the two collections. And so just for a little variety, I have that smaller triangle that will be up the top there. So those are the windows. Now I'm going to put a second layer of double-sided sticky tape, and I'm going to pull off the backing on two of the three sides so that I create a pocket. There's the third side, but you'll see I leave that sticky back on. Same thing here, and I be careful when you do this to make sure that you leave that third piece of tape to the outside of your sequence, or of your pocket, just so that you aren't having to negotiate sequence in sticky places. Now, before I can do this, I need to back the rest of these triangles. I could have left them as they are, but I wanted more color, more fall color in particular, to this layout. So I am just using scraps of paper from a fall layout that I did using a Paige Evans digital die cut, and some of this is from SpiegelMom Scraps. From Cocoa Daisy, but most of it is just papers that I had pulled with fall colors. So I sort of non-discriminately just sort of folded some of the papers so that I knew where I needed to trim to back each of these squares. So I have that orange plaid. And again, you can see how these are all just scraps from a previous project that I worked on. Some of them I folded, some of them I used a pencil and just trimmed around the edges and just stuck them on. I was originally going to sew, and I thought that sewing the it's not vellum. I keep wanting to call it vellum. The projector acetate film would be a great way of closing down the pockets onto the page, but I decided not to because I really didn't need any more color on the page. So this is another piece from a Cocoa Daisy kit from September. And I liked the way that this particular pattern piece of paper with the flowers in it had a mix of colors and sort of tied everything together. I do leave one of the squares empty. In some ways, that empty square is the third in the trio that ties together the two shaker pockets with the empty square and gives you that trio of emptiness per se, even though two of them have the shaker pockets in them. I'm just cleaning up a little bit here because it was starting to get a little messy, and finding what I needed and what I didn't need was getting a little hectic. Just get rid of all those paper scraps that I wasn't using that I had trimmed off of the triangles, and use my Prima glue pen to just stick the backs of those down. So I have one more pocket to fill, or one more triangle, and I decide to go with the tree side of this piece of pattern paper from Simple Stories. This is a piece that goes way, 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 way back in my stash. And add that, and it just gives a little bit of white to contrast with the white around the border of the picture there. So I've got all of the elements that I want, the triangles backed, and so I stick this down, and you can see where I've already removed that, and there's that little pocket, and just slide some sequins in. So this particular collection with the yellow in it, I literally just tuck those in underneath there and then use my tweezers to sort of rearrange them. This particular sequence mix is called A Day in the Woods from SpiegelMom Scraps. And then the smaller triangle, I'm going to use some sequins that has more green, a darker green, and some brown in it, and this is called Evergreen Bough. And I do end up having to take some sequins out of that bigger triangle there. I put a little too much in, and so the sequins couldn't move. There wasn't enough free movement of the sequins, so a few of those had to come out in order to really get the shaker effect that I wanted on the page. And as I tucked them in, I hadn't pushed down the side of the pockets of the sequins very well, and so they got stuck between the adhesive and the paper, and so I just used my needle nose pliers, tweezers there to stick the sequins in where they could float around on the page. And then I just used my ATG to glue down the rest of the triangles. And that is the foundation of the page. And now it's just time to build in a few more embellishment clusters and put the picture down. So I have those 3 leaves for my 3 embellies clusters. And as I had done before, I've got these 3, actually I only used 2 of the 3 triangles that are the innards of the triangles from the digital die cut file. And I really wanted that third, that oak leaf that was by the picture, to be down below the picture, but it didn't. It was too close to the maple leaf in the bottom right corner, and I wanted that visual triangle so it looked better up the top there. And by putting this tag to the left side, it enabled me to be able to put the leaf to the top left with a little more purpose and spacing in that visual triangle. So I have the date written on the back of this picture. I print my own pictures at home, and I always forget to write the date on the back of the layout so that I can stamp it or translate that information somehow onto the front of the layout. So I was making a conscious effort to make sure that I got that date on the back of the layout there. I added some fun foam to the back of the picture to just pop that up for a little added dimension, and just cut off a tag. It is not a functional tag. There's no hidden journaling because I do journal on this layout. And it's just a decorative element on the page. So my journaling says, no matter where you are, there is never a view during the fall season that can disappoint. And that goes underneath the picture. And then if you continue down to the bottom of the triangles, my journaling says, we never have to travel far for fall color. That is the view from our front porch. So we truly never have to go far for fall color. We have a lot of trees around us, which is one of the benefits of living in an older subdivision. And so we do get plenty of fall color. One of the things that I do off camera is I take some chipboard thickers from Cocoa Daisy, and I put the year 2016 into that leaf in particular right there that I've just put that wood veneer by. So I now dig into my wood veneer stash, and I take some of these leaves from, I believe these are lawn fawn, and just add them for a little added fall festivity to the page. And then I wanted to put a little bit more of the sequins, again, just for some more splash of color. And I used the same sequins mixes that I used in the shaker pockets to give a little bit more color to the outer edges of that page there. And I'm going to use my Scotch Quick Dry adhesive or Scotch Tacky Glue to glue those down. And I believe that that is going to be the end of the layout. I do get some mist, some Heidi Swap, and I added just a little touch of brown to add a little bit more brown color to the outer edges of the layout. There's always, when you have leaves on the ground, you always seem to find specks of dust beside them, and so these are kind of my specks of dust. I covered the picture, and that is my SpiegelMom Scraps layout for you today. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to ask in the box below. I have a few close-ups to follow. Thanks for joining me today, and I'll see you back here next week. Take care.